Sounds good.
Hello everyone and welcome to this keynote session by Will Piper and Pedro Aparicio. Now the title of your session has eluded me for the minute, but I'm sure that will come up on another slide. Already I've loved the sense of humour that I can hear here, so I know we're going to be in for a great session. Before we start though, a big thank you to our sponsors and supporters. You can see the list there on the whiteboard, because without them this conference would not be able to happen. We would love you to mark on this map where you are actually from. So if you look to the left, let me just make sure the tools are activated, you should be able to either use a laser light or the pencil or a shape and just draw or indicate where are you from in the world. We would also love you to share in the chat, where are you from, what do you teach, or what is your interest in education. So I'm Anne Merchant from Southeastern Australia. It's lunchtime, the 19th of November, and I teach computer technology in a small rural school. Okay, it looks like you've got quite a global audience there. So Will and Pedro, over to you.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. We are so glad that you have chosen to give of your day or your evening to join my compadre Pedro Aparicio and myself. Our presentation is called Crossing Borders for Multicultural Understanding, and it's a tale of two educators with a passion to ignite global learning in their classrooms. Tonight we're going to share our story, how we met as, we actually met in one of the chat rooms here at Global EdCon a few years ago in 2012, and we both happened to comment on how we enjoyed looking at each other's profile picture, which had pictures of our families. And then we started talking about having little kids, and Pedro has a son who's the same age as my daughters, and you know, all of a sudden we become, you know, collaborating educators. And from that relationship, we've become actually very good friends. Pedro had we had the privilege of hosting Pedro at our home this summer when he came from Mexico City to present at USM Summer Spark, which was a conference we had on campus at my school, University School of Milwaukee. So that was quite an honor to have him there and to present with him. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight a little bit, is our story. The two of us really have a shared vision for education and global learning. Pedro's, you know, a point that Pedro always brings up is we learn best when we learn from each other. And this is a mantra that I've adopted as an educator as well. When we're working together, when we're learning about different perspectives, when we're learning about multiculturalism, we're really, you know, not just learning about facts and content, we're learning about essential capacities. We're learning about skills for how to be excellent citizens in the 21st century. And the quote that I use is that this is the bedrock of everything that we've done as teaching partners, is that whole idea of we learn best when we learn from each other. And so hopefully this evening you'll enjoy learning a little bit from us and hearing about our educational journey from two guys in a chat room at Global EdCon 12 to two teachers who have done some really neat stuff in our classrooms, and hopefully we can find some of you who would love to collaborate with us as well, because the world is a big place, yet very small, and we love what we do as global educators. So I'm going to let Pedro take it away with a little learning about different perspectives.
Well, first of all, hola, buenas noches. Es un verdadero placer estar esta noche con ustedes. Anne y Tonia están desde Australia y esto es una pequeña prueba del gran milagro de la ciencia y de la magia que tiene la tecnología del siglo XXI. I'm going to be switching to Spanish along this presentation, because I would like to include speaking Spanish teachers from all over the world and show what we have been doing, what Will and I have been doing for the last 3 years. I'm from Mexico City. I teach 4th graders, elementary. I teach science, math, and social study. And well, I'm more than excited to share this story with all of you. And as we all said, we are always looking for new ways to improve our teaching technique, but sometimes we focus more on the skills of students to face a future, to face new challenges, and to be able to be good citizens in the future. So we try to find different ways to use digital tools to collaborate beyond borders with other teachers to make learning a meaningful experience. Sometimes we are busy, we feel overwhelmed with lesson planning, grading homeworks, parents' interview, but there are always ways to improve what we do, the things we do, and find other colleagues, other partners, or other friends to collaborate, to communicate, and share those experiences to enrich our teaching techniques. So I truly believe that today, in the 21st century, we need to not only focus on content, but also on personal qualities that are not measured by tests. For instance, enthusiasm. How can you be able to test enthusiasm, empathy in your classroom? Those are very important personal qualities that today sometimes we're so worried about our syllabus, about planning our lessons, study guides, tests, national tests, standardized tests that sometimes kids can pick up content, can pick up knowledge, but just clicking in the web and find all the information that is needed for their academic success. So we need to teach also motivation, creativity, critical thinking. Of course, that is really, really important. What about respect? Can we be able to teach respect in our classroom? I guess so. That is really, really important. Compassion. Will and I just were discussing about that nowadays, more than ever, we need educators, we need teachers to truly believe that that kids need to be respectful, be tolerant, be empathetic with others. What we hear in the news today is really is terrible, and we need to do something. We have the power. We have the power to talk to our students, to convince them by being a role model, by teaching them that is more important than content.
And when we think about modern learning, we live in a wonderful age where we really have, these ideas that Pedro was talking about essential capacities and personal skills. And when we think about modern learning as teachers, we're on this journey with our students. We are the lead learners in our classroom. And by modeling an importance for multicultural education by modeling a passion for learning about others. We're able to help instill some of these ideas, hopefully, in our students through these global activities. This is a graphic that Pedro found, and we used it when we were planning our Summer Spark presentation, and I thought it was a really neat one because when you think about the journey of students, think about being on a bus, and you've got the curriculum is the road. Okay, you've got the curriculum, it's paved, hopefully, in most cases. If it's aligned well, it's paved. The pedagogy is the driver. Okay, the teacher is going to be driving that curriculum the way that he or she feels is best and how they're able to best suit it. Technology is the accelerator. It's like being able to step on that gas pedal and be able to do things more quickly. I think about in my 14 years of teaching world cultural geography for 5th graders here at university school. Back 14 years ago, we weren't able to do something like we're doing right now. Video conferencing, that's been a huge factor in adding that acceleration to the class. Google Docs, something I learned from Pedro, Google Apps for Education. That's been a huge game changer in our world as teachers. Passion goes right along with that. You know, passion's like the gas, and then student learning is the destination. You put this all together, and hopefully you get students who are not only learning content, learning essential capacities, but also are passionate, lifelong learners. And that's what we really hope to do in our classrooms.
Nosotros como profesores tenemos un poder ilimitado que va más allá de las paredes de nuestro salón de clases, va más allá de las fronteras y debemos tener la convicción de que ciertas habilidades como el respeto mutuo, como la colaboración, como la tolerancia, el hecho de entender las diferentes culturas, las diferentes religiones, las diferentes perspectivas, de ninguna manera están peleados con la tecnología. Debemos de comunicar nuestras ideas, debemos de conectarnos, debemos de compartir ese conocimiento, trabajar de manera colectiva y no de manera individual para resolver problemas globales que están aquejando a nuestra sociedad. ¿Dónde va a empezar eso? ¿Cuál va a ser el motor que va a permitir el mover y el buscar nuevas metodologías de enseñanza, nuevas perspectivas para poder evaluar el conocimiento y poder transformar nuestra sociedad que cada día está en decadencia? Pues nosotros tenemos ese poder como educadores, como docentes, como profesores. Y el ejemplo lo debemos de tomar siendo profesores que utilicen la tecnología y podamos darle audiencias auténticas a nuestros alumnos para poder enseñar estas habilidades de las que les estaba hablando y conectarnos con alumnos de Estados Unidos, de Australia, de Inglaterra, de España, de Argentina. Hace un mes me acabo de conectar con alumnos de Australia. Pensé que iba a ser una barrera la cuestión de la zona por el horario, pero buscando solucionar este problema, nos dieron una alternativa y logramos comunicarnos, y mis alumnos de México, de la Ciudad de México, lograron dar sus puntos de vista con los alumnos de Australia. Will?
Yep. You taking pedagogy, or do you want me to do that one?
Go for it, please.
Oh, you got it. One of the things that we think about as learners is what do students remember? You know, every day we teach lessons, and sometimes when we think about the best lessons, the lessons as Dave Burgess from Teach Like a Pirate fame would say, the lessons you could sell tickets to. The lessons that you really remember are not just lessons that are taught in one modality. And one of the powers of global learning is that global learning allows students to experience. You're not just learning about somebody. You're not just learning facts in a textbook or from an online website. You're learning about the person by interacting with that person and really being able to share ideas. And so when we look at this graph that that Pedro found, Pedro is really the man when it comes to graphs and visuals. You think about what we remember, 90% of what we say or do, it's something where you are connecting on multiple modes. You have a visual, you have something that is an experience that you take with you. And so that's really, as educators, what we've tried to do with our global learning. The other power of global learning is the idea of learning from each other. And when we engage students beyond borders, it's not just one person, it's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street where, or a multiple-way street when you think about it, because you have multiple kids in your classes. And that street is based on understanding and learning from each other and being able to look at things from different perspectives. One of the best activities that we're going to talk to you about in more depth a little later is an activity that Pedro and I have grown over the past 3 years, where we have students learn about El Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. It's a holiday in Mexico that's very popular, and what ends up happening is Pedro's students present about El Dia de los Muertos to my students. They do some Pedro's students do research, present to an authentic audience with my fifth graders. My fifth graders in turn help share what they learned about El Dia de los Muertos. We make a collaborative website, and that learning just, it just grows exponentially as the activities continue to develop and evolve over time. Really what we're all about as teachers, and I think all of us as educators that are here, is breaking down the classroom walls with global learning and having fun. This picture that you see is a picture of Pedro's students as they are getting ready to Skype the fifth graders at University School of Milwaukee. And each of these kids presented about a different aspect of the culture of El Dia de los Muertos. And what was great fun about it is you could see the students' personalities. When my students were watching, they were in awe of the student who did the face paint. They thought that was just a really neat thing that student went above and beyond to do that. And we'll see him. He'll pop up again in a little bit. But this is how kids remember. You're not learning, in a textbook, marigolds represent this and face paint represents that, and just learning about it in a very linear, non-contextual way. You're learning about it with real kids teaching other kids. And really with Pedro and I being facilitators, we're helping set up the Skype, but the students are really the ones that are running it. And it's just a powerful learning tool. And I can tell you this, the students in fifth grade know Dia de los Muertos a lot better than they would ever have if it wasn't for that experience.
Truly, educator must believe in sharing, communication, and collaboration. Truly, educator must flatten classroom and engage minds in different ways. We need to practice and model lifelong learning. Use the tools of technology to personalize his or her professional development. Be a relevant educator willing to explore, question, elaborate, and advance ideas through connections with other educators. That's what Will and I have been doing for the last three years. Sometimes things cannot come out the way we expect, the way we want. So failure is a part of this process of learning, because the bandwidth of the internet could not be working. There are different factors. Time zone is another problem, another issue when connected with another country in the other side of the world, but it's worth doing it. When you are willing to change different perspectives, when you are willing to teach your kids empathy, when you're willing to teach your kids how to be tolerant, how to be respectful with other kids, with different culture, different cultural background, you find the right tools to do it, and at the same time, we are preparing those students to become digital citizenship for a world of continuous technological evolution, and we as educators need to understand that dynamic and evolve at a pace that keeps us from falling behind. The tools of communication, collaboration, and creation have radically changed and will continue to transform the way we teach nowadays. So the art of teaching involves not only the dispense of facts and terminology, but also the learning of cultures, needs, and perspectives which may not match our own. And we must be there. We must be prepared for those students who have questions about what is going on in the world today.
One of the great things that we've been able to do as educators is to connect, collaborate, and create. And what we want to do is talk to you a little bit about kind of how do we start off with this. We started off with a simple connection where as I mentioned, we had met in the classroom and in a chat room, just like the chat room that's going on right here in the back channel of this session. And then we went from there, and we started off where we were going to do a mystery Skype, which if you've never done any global collaboration, I think mystery Skype is probably it's the low-hanging fruit. It's easy, it's fun, kids like it. It requires not a ton of effort in terms of planning. But we decided, okay, instead of doing the mystery Skype, we're just going to go one up and we'll just do a question and answer session. And as Pedro mentioned, there are things that are going to come up in global learning that aren't always going to work. You have language barriers a little bit. Sometimes, we can't control if the internet connection is wonky in Mexico City, or if it's wonky here in Milwaukee, or if it's wonky in Rajasthan, India, where we sometimes Skype with a class there. But it's to start off, just simply having a question and answer session is a great way to do that. Then after that first initial question and answer session, something really powerful happened. We Skyped with Pedro's class right before Christmas. And this was 3 years ago. This is our first, really our first big collaboration that we had done after we had met at the Global EdCon. And what happened was we had just spontaneously, his students started singing to my students, "We wish you a Merry Christmas" in English. His students obviously being Spanish, as Spanish was their first language. My students started singing to Pedro's students, "Feliz Navidad" in Spanish. And we looked at each other after we were done this and we're like, wow, man, we're onto something. And so from there we first connected, then we collaborated, and now we're really working as teachers to create content and be able to work together to produce things, to teach each other, to have those experiences and provide those opportunities for students to really broaden their cultural horizons and be able to develop, as Pedro mentioned before, the empathy, the compassion, the understanding, those personal skills that go beyond the content of our classrooms. And so I'll let Pedro talk a little bit about this, as he's a guru. He's taught me more about
okay,
Google Plus and apps.
Well, perhaps he says that because I'm a Google certified innovator, but I try to do my best using digital tools to incorporate those tools into my teaching. Well, you might be wondering, how do I get started? Well, the best way to find connection with another class is to take the risk and try it out. Your social media accounts could be a great beginning: Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, or even Google+. You can find lots of educators out there willing to exchange ideas, willing to connect with your class, and learn new things about world history, about English, social studies, science. There are lots of stuff out there, and you just need to take the first step and go for it. what's next? Well, you can start using Twitter with a special hashtag from educational chat. For instance, Global Ed 15, Global Ed chat, Next chat, and you will find, as I told you, hundreds of educators willing to try any content area, grade level, or specialization in education. Mystery Skype is another great, fantastic, marvelous tool to connect into other classes around the world. It's where two classes meet via video chat online to guess where in the world each other is geographically. There is a Hangout, Google Hangout education community on Google+. You can have a quick scan of community, which includes posts from all over the world, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia. It's a great place to get connected to people and classes, and it covers all ages, all levels, all lessons, K-12, and you will be amazed, you will be surprised how many educators are out there to communicate, to share, to collaborate with you.
I'll jump in there with the Google Hangout, and actually this is a great example of taking a risk a little bit. Earlier this year, Lucy Gray and the Global Education Network, which puts on this conference, did a global collaboration day, and it was in September. And so there's a whole bunch of educators worldwide that jumped in on this, and it was a total blast. And so what I did is I said, okay, let's do kind of a simple activity where I created a Google Slides, and I had teachers take class pictures. This is right around our class picture day at university school. And so I had kids take the class pictures, and then they just put them in the Google Slides along with where the class is from and a quote about why global learning is important. Well, we took this one step further, and I kind of feel like, Pedro, this is like our thing, is we always take it one step further. We ended up doing a Google Hangout with multiple different classes in multiple different parts of the world. And this was wild. I'd never done a Google Hangout before. And we had Pedro and his class in Mexico. We had our friend Christine Hodges, who we met at the Summer Spark Conference last year. She was with her class from Venezuela. Then we had a teacher we'd never met before. Her name was Poonam Sharma, and she's from Rajasthan, India. And then we had another class from Mexico. And so we had these four classes, and then my class. We had 5 classes, and then I think there might have even been a class from Canada that might have been in and out. But all just kind of talking at the same time on Google Hangouts, and much like what we're doing right now, where if I'm talking, my face pops up. Hello. If Pedro's talking, his face pops up. That sort of experience happens with the Google Hangouts, and it's a powerful tool. And communities like, I mean, I really think the community here at Global Education, the Global Education Conference, the Global Education Network, you really find passionate teachers. You also could find, using that Global Collaboration Day and some of those resources, you can find passionate teachers there as well. But it's just a ton of fun.
And sharing with other classroom, working collaboratively with other teachers unlocks unlimited potential. So you can write your own blog and make your class blog. You can use wikis, e-portfolios. You can also find other educators on Edmodo, Skype, which we already cover. You can share folders via Google Drive. We can use Google Docs and collaborate at the same time. Or it doesn't matter where you are. You just need a mobile device, a laptop, and internet connectivity, and magic happens. You can also work with Google Forms, sites. That was an idea I got when I started collaborating with Will, that we decided to open our own site. And my kids will present their information, their research about a specific topic. We will upload videos, pictures of what we do in class. My kids will be able to write their own stories, their own reflections about what was going on in the classroom. And then will do exactly the same thing with his students, and we put everything together in a Google site, and we were able to see what Will's students were doing in their social studies class, and Will's students will be able to see what my students were doing here in Mexico City. It has been a tremendous, a wonderful tool for our classroom to be connected. And then you can also use Google Plus communities to find more educators willing to share their expertise, their techniques in teaching, and so on. Hangouts and YouTube as well.
Yeah. Another thing.
Will Piper just share the link with the site we created, like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, Will?
Oh, yeah.
So
I just shared that in the chat.
Yep, it's in the chat. So don't hesitate to click that link, and you'll see what we have been doing in the last few weeks. Another thing with global education that is important probably to mention is that you want to be always open-minded to new ideas, new platforms, and new connections. And one of the things I think about is don't let #time zone probs get in the way of your collaborations. Obviously, we live in a global world where Anne, one of our moderators, was enjoying her kiwi fruit just before she jumped in here to start the moderation of the site. She's eating lunch, and it's Thursday afternoon in Australia. Here in Milwaukee and in Mexico City, we're blessed to have the same time zone, and it is 9:35 at night. A tool that is a great one to try to circumvent time zone probs, as I call them, is using WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a global texting app. It's very popular in Asia. It's very popular abroad. Actually, I don't think I have any WhatsApp friends that are from the United States, which is kind of funny. But it's free, it's global texting, and what's really neat about it is that you can share pictures and video just like you can on regular text. I have a teacher, actually it's funny, Lucy just mentioned it's very popular in Africa. I have a teacher friend who I met, I met at Skype Classroom, doing a Skype Classroom chat on Twitter. His name is Ekau Simpson. In Ekau's school, he lives in Cape Coast, Ghana, and he teaches at a school that doesn't have computers. Their access to internet is basically through their teachers' mobile phones. Ekau, though, was able to jump in and help teach my students about his students' experiences in Africa. We're talking about water, and he was referring to, does your school have boreholes? Now, I asked my students that, and they're like, what? What's a borehole? We're from Milwaukee. We know bubblers. We don't know boreholes. So he actually took his phone, using WhatsApp, videoed kids filling up water at the borehole in the middle of the village and then bringing it back, and then shot me that video on his phone on WhatsApp. And then I projected that onto my smartboard using an Apple TV, and voila, all of a sudden we're seeing kids in Ghana filling up a bucket of water using a borehole, and then we're able to reflect on that, talk about that, ask them questions. So, there's many different, I'll call them hacks to get around time zone probs. India, we do the same thing. We use a lot of WhatsApp to work with the Indian classes. I actually have a group of students that are at a boarding school that I've collaborated with. They taught us about Diwali, much like Pedro's class taught us about Dia de Muertos. I have a class in Australia with Mr. Paul Sharp and the St. Agnes School in Cranbourne, which is right outside of Melbourne, I've been told. Oh, excuse me, Melbourne, because no one in Australia would call it Melbourne. And in Melbourne, that school and we did global pen pals. And if email or those sort of connections might not be
permitted at your school, or it might seem like that's a lot of, there's a lot of kind of risk with that, with what are the kids going to send back and forth. Good old school snail mail has been a neat thing that we've done before as well. And so I've had some classes, I had a class in Germany that did snail mail Christmas cards. And what was interesting is we sent them winter greeting cards because in our school, and here where we lived in Milwaukee, not everyone celebrates Christmas. But in Germany, and the part of Germany that this school is from, they were all Christians, all celebrated Christmas, and so that was another thing going on as well. For the most part, what we try to do too is find effective global projects that we can collaborate on, where we can create that two-way or multiple-way street for our students. And I'll let Pedro talk about this picture, because I think pictures can speak 1,000 words, and this one might speak 2,000. With talking about Day of the Dead.
Okay, este proyecto del Día de los Muertos es una celebración muy especial en nuestro país, en México, y yo estoy convencido de que nuestro idioma español es importante, tan importante como el idioma inglés, y debemos de quitar esas barreras, esas fronteras que nos dividen. No importa el color de tu piel, no importa tu religión, no importa de qué nacionalidad eres, debemos de compartir todas nuestras tradiciones, todas nuestras creencias y ser tolerante con lo que las otras personas, con lo que los otros alumnos, lo que otros profesores piensan, lo que otras sociedades piensan. Y nosotros como educadores tenemos ese poder de transformar nuestra realidad. Entonces, la mejor manera de hacerlo es haciendo proyectos, equivocándote, practicando, discutiendo, analizando, compartiendo todo lo que nosotros hacemos. Si nosotros estamos estudiando sobre el Día de Muertos, pues es necesario que en nuestro salón de clases podamos hacer ese ritual con todo el respeto necesario, con todo el fervor necesario, con la pasión que tienes para dar clases y decirles, vengan niños, juntos vamos a hacer este trabajo, pero debemos ser congruentes con lo que decimos, con lo que hacemos, con lo que enseñamos, tener esa convicción y transformarlo, ¿no? Ya lo hicimos, ya lo creamos, ya tenemos nuestro altar, nuestras rosas de cempasúchil, tenemos papel picado, tenemos la comida, la fruta, tenemos todos los elementos de esta ofrenda de Día de Muertos. Es tanto la pasión que contagiamos a nuestros alumnos. Por eso ahí está uno de mis alumnos que dijo, profesor, yo quiero caracterizarme de Catrín. Quiero llevar esto más allá de lo posible, porque me gusta, lo entiendo, estoy convencido, estoy motivado de hacer las cosas. Muchos trajeron calacas, que está ahí al fondo de la ofrenda, y bueno, de esta manera convertimos a este proyecto en un proyecto colaborativo, una práctica efectiva del conocimiento, y no solamente se queda en el salón de clases, lo llevamos más allá y lo compartimos con otros salones de clases en Texas, en Milwaukee, en Australia, y eso es muy importante para los alumnos porque ellos tienen esa audiencia auténtica, un aprendizaje real, significativo en lo que está pasando dentro del salón de clase, y por eso Will y yo nos atrevemos a decir hay que tirar esas paredes y hay que llevar el conocimiento más allá de esas paredes, más allá de la escuela. So we try to do those effective global collaborative projects in a profession where change is the norm. What can we do to scaffold our own learning? Just as scaffolds are used to build a building one floor at a time, take small steps and approach the changes one lesson at a time. Will and I started doing these global collaborative projects little by little. We started 3 years ago, and today we share Google Sites. Today we have a WhatsApp group, and we are inviting other collaborators, other educators from all over the world. And by the way, we're missing one from Europe. If someone is willing to join our WhatsApp group and to exchange ideas how to teach a specific subject or the things we enjoy teaching, that will be great.
Yeah, and in this next slide, what we have is we have some of the examples of things that we've done with this. And the Day of the Dead website is really, I think, a great example of a higher level thinking going on with students. If you look at that, I'm going to post the link. The link, actually, let me see if I can post the link in the chat again. And thanks for folks that are here that are sharing emails or contact information, because Pedro and I would absolutely love to collaborate with you. I've got this crazy big idea of doing a project about fresh water that would include teachers and kids on every continent, and talking about the importance of fresh water and stuff like that. And that could be really neat. Once you start doing this stuff, it becomes contagious, and it really is a joy. It's probably the most fun thing I've done as a teacher in 14 years of teaching, is collaborating beyond borders and beyond walls. And seeing students really get excited about it is a real gift. And I think it's something that kids, I saw somebody mentioned in the Twitter chat, excuse me, in the back channel chat, about this is stuff that kids will really remember. And we actually have students that are in 8th grade that still have contact with their Australian pen pals from 5th grade. And I just think about the amount of global learning that that is going on there. So we've done, you can kind of see what these links we'll have available. The first one is the Day of the Dead site that we did this year. This was year number 3, and this is probably the best one we've done for a couple reasons.
The second link is year number 2. We created another site, and we have changed different ideas how we innovate our teaching. And the third link, it's a magazine where there was an article written by Will and his colleagues about the Day of the Dead, and it's a really nice article. I really recommend it to read it. Last year I had the opportunity to visit Will in Milwaukee, because they had their first Summer Spark conference over there, and they invited me to give out a session. And well, what a great surprise that people from Telemundo came and interviewed us, because they wanted to know our story. They wanted to hear what was going on between Will's class and mine. Wasn't that funny, Will?
Oh, it was. I thought that was great. And you know, when I was just mentioning, Lucy asked a question about what happens in older grades. What happens sometimes is I think that good teaching inspires other good teaching. And after Pedro came, and after we kind of had that big buzz with Telemundo and everything in Summer Spark, all of a sudden the next thing that happened was, you know, we have more teachers from university school that are connecting. I know one of the gentlemen in the chat is Jeff Ballantyne, one of our Spanish teachers, phenomenal educator, and Jeff has done some things with international classrooms since then. We have teachers in the upper school that have done that. It really just takes that one step of saying, all right, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to give this a try, and the next thing you know, boom, things really start taking off, and it really is a lot of fun.
Yeah. I guess it's time for other teachers to, if you have any questions or you have any doubts about what we have been talking about lately. Tonya, are you there?
So just to kind of wrap up, really what we want to do is hopefully you've enjoyed our presentation tonight. Dave Burgess, one of the people that we saw at the Summer Spark Conference, always talked about how having a prop is good. So I thought we'd conclude with me putting on my luchador's mask to kind of symbolize the fact that learning about different cultures is just so much fun. And in today's day and age, I think as educators, we really need to focus on the skills of teaching kids compassion, teaching kids respect, teaching kids empathy, teaching kids to understand from one another about, why is it that if you were walking down the streets of Mexico and you saw somebody wearing a luchador mask like this, why would they be wearing it? Well, you learn about the culture of Mexican masked wrestling. Why is the cross on the mask? Well, 90% of Mexico is Catholic. There's a whole bunch of, why do they have these wings on the mask? Well, that kind of goes back to the Aztec customs and Quetzalcoatl. So even with something silly like this, you can get a whole lot of in-depth cultural learning going on. And I'll tell you what, seeing the kids' excitement when you are teaching like this is fantastic. So we hope that you enjoyed our session. And we hope that you will hopefully be inspired to take that leap and to have some fun and enjoy. Lucy asked if she could ask some questions. I think absolutely. Ask away.
I'll ask a couple questions and then wrap up because his microphone is not working terribly well. So we're so excited to have you here and for you to tell your story. So the first thing I want to say is thank you so much for staying up late and for taking care of this. And Will's little boy broke his leg last night, everybody, and he's here. Fortunately, his little boy is okay, it sounds like. But your dedication, your passion, and your enthusiasm is unmatched from both of you. And from the bottom of my heart, it just means the world to me. So thank you for coming.
Hey, thank you. If it wasn't for you having Global EdCon, we wouldn't have, we wouldn't have Los Amigos.
Yeah, that's right. That's where we met.
So
we met online. Okay.
Here's my question for you guys. 2 questions to wrap up. One, I'll ask both of them and then you can just continue with them. One is, what are some things that are coming up, if anything, that people can get involved with that you're plugging? And 2, in your opinion, how do we elevate the conversation and get more people involved and have people more people realize the significance and the importance of this kind of work? How's that for you? For a couple questions.
Those are very good questions. I think we both. Why don't we both address each of them so we can kind of talk about different schools and perspectives. As far as upcoming events, one of the things that we try to do a lot of, and we're very blessed at our school, is we have a lot of professional development opportunities at University School where we're able to go to conferences and explore things. I think that the online resources for global ed are really valuable because you're not going to be able to find a conference, with maybe the exception of ISTE, which is kind of like the Coachella or the Lollapalooza of educational conferences, or actually I should say the Bonnaroo, because that's really the big Mecca one. But really what we want to try to do is we try to find sessions to go to that promote global awareness. I'll let Pedro take that from there.
Yeah, well, the next thing, the next project is Anne and Julie Lindsay have invited us to collaborate with the Global Educator book. I just shared the link for the globaleducator.net, where we can connect more educators and share different projects and use 21st century skills as communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity to solve issues that, I don't know, that are giving us a lot of pain lately.
And we also have an event coming up, and Lucy brought it up, and I thank her for doing so. This summer we have an event called USM Summer Spark. She shared the link to that. And one of the things that is really neat about Summer Spark, it's a conference held on innovative teaching here at University School of Milwaukee. And one of the really fun things about it is we have a whole track on global education. Pedro was one of our keynotes last year, and I'm going to be doing global ed stuff. We'd love to have Pedro back this year. He's always welcome at my casa. And
okay.
Hoping,
because tu casa is my casa.
Absolutely.
Your house is my house. Okay.
But I think that, you know, trying to collaborate and reach out and find like-minded teachers that are going to, you know, that are kind of part of this global journey has been incredible. At that Summer Spark conference, one of the teachers that is now part of our WhatsApp group, Christine Hodges, we met her. She's teaching at an international school in Venezuela, and I'm like, holy cow. That would be, you know, it's just pretty neat to have that. And I would, by the way, I would love to do a winter spark in Mexico City. That would be fantastic. It'd be the right time of year to do it too.
Okay, guys.
That will be fantastic. And one more thing, Lucy, is that I hope to see you and see Julie Lindsay in Denver in 2016, and we can get on board more teachers, more educators to talk about global collaboration.
That would be awesome. So for all of you who are listening, we're trying to carry on the activities that stem from this conference into other things. And for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, we've hosted Global Education Day at ISTE. And so ISTE takes place, and this year it's in Denver, as Pedro was saying, at the end of June, and this will be a face-to-face, like, pre-conference day where people are kind of doing roundtables and Ignite talks, and usually for 3 hours the day before the conference starts. So if you are coming, Pedro, make sure you come early enough on Sunday to join that.
Sure, I will.
We're also, hopefully, we haven't picked the dates yet. Maybe we'll do it between now and the closing session tomorrow. But we are going to do a virtual 1-day or 2-day thing called Global Leadership Day in the spring. And that's going to be a little bit of a different format, really kind of focusing on the decision makers who make these kinds of things happen and empower their teachers to do these kinds of things. So that will be coming up. And then, as you mentioned before, Global Education Day will be again, or Global Collaboration Day will be again in September. I think it will be September 16th. And the point of that is, whereas this event is all about the platform, you know, we host the platform, it's pretty standard, you know, kind of presentations. On Global Collaboration Day, we want it to be a design your own event type of thing to show what global collaboration looks like to the people who haven't joined in on the fun. So for those of you who are listening, you know, think of those 4 kind of core events that we're doing and how you want to get involved in that sort of thing. So and I know I can count on Pedro and Will to be enthusiastic about this kind of thing. Okay, so we've got probably some more sessions coming up, and I should probably get to those rooms to close them up. Why don't you guys say something pithy in our final moments, and then I'll stop the recording. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you. Muchísimas gracias. Es un verdadero honor, placer el haber convivido con mi amigo Will, con mi compadre Will. Gracias, Lucy, por la oportunidad, y espero que en el futuro haya más sesiones en español para poder cobijar, para poder abrazar a otros educadores, tanto en inglés como en español. Gracias. Buenas noches.
And thank you very much for enjoying our conference tonight. Hope you learned something new, and hope you feel inspired. And thanks again to Lucy and the Global EdCon group and Steve and everyone that's helped out with Global EdCon for providing opportunities for educators to connect. And I hope to see some of the folks who are here. Please follow me on Twitter at WD Piper, and I would love to collaborate with you all. The world is a small place. Cheers.